Afuaje to start with his questions. Honorable Asafuaje, you have the floor.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, thank you. Honorable Minister, I would like to congratulate you once again. I am a Japon boy, so it serves well to have one of us being here. But Mr. Nominee, I am a bit worried, particularly with the diplomatic posturing of our president when it comes to the Sahel Trio and how it would impact on the image of Ghana as a democratic country. What do you think of it?
Well, thank you very much. It's a very important question you have asked. And interestingly, ECOWAS will be 50 years this year, and Ghana is likely to host the 50-year celebrations. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama believes that our regional integration agenda should be pursued and should not be abandoned. And so even though our three closest neighbors, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, broke away from ECOWAS, and only this week their breakaway became effective. ECOWAS announced that they have completed the cessation. We need to be conscious of the fact that as closest neighbors, even though we are promoting democracy and we have all said no to coups, we face serious threats. The threat of violent extremism and terrorism. And so, as good neighbors, President Mahama is of the view that he should not give up on dialogue. Article 40 and Article 73 of the 1992 Constitution enjoins the President and all of us who will be working in the foreign service space that our strategic national interest should always be at the center of our foreign policy considerations. If you have your neighbors who are being totally taken over with extremism, terrorism, and indeed, all our neighbors have been attacked except Ghana. And we know that if situation gets out of hand, the economic crisis also worsen, we will be affected. We are trading partners as well, and we have historic ancestral ties. There are many Ghanaians who trace their roots from Burkina Faso, from Niger, from Mali. So it is very strategic for President Mahama to say that I want to help resolve this Sahelian crisis. And that is why he appointed the respected, venerable Flight Lieutenant Colonel Bevlolate, who was an AU envoy on counterterrorism and also has the military clout and very close relations with some of these military leaders. So it is in our strategic national interest, as Article 40 and Article 73 enjoins us. And that is what informs President Mahama's posture when it comes to our three neighbors who have formed AES.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I'm following up on that. Honourable Minister, don't you think that our colleagues within the ECOWAS will be disappointed on the position the President has taken when they also have a different position?
The indications are that our neighbors are rather impressed with President Mahama's approach. They are really impressed that all of them were at his inauguration. And remember that even before President Mahama's intervention, ECOWAS did not just alienate them. ECOWAS took steps to dialogue, even appointed an envoy to try to talk to them to come back. Because some of the things they want to do, have a new passport, have a new bank, a new trading bloc, it will really undermine our quest for regional integration. And the further bastardization and balkanization of the region is not what will help our collective economic interests, particularly at the time we are talking about the continental free trade arrangement, you know. So I can assure you, my respected colleague, that these are steps in the strategic national interest of our country, and it is very welcoming. And I think that we should, as a House, support President Mahama to achieve his objectives. I think it will be to our collective credit if during our tenure as leaders in Parliament and in the executive, we were able to talk to our good neighbors to come back into the ECOWAS fold. I think that it will really be a good icing on the cake as ECOWAS celebrates 50 years in existence.
The Chairman, I want to ask the nominee again.
That is your second question.
That's my second question, I admit. Having attended, worked with AU, attended several meetings, Ghana has always taken a position when it comes to Kosovo and Serbia. When it comes to Sahrawi Republic, we even call them the Western Sahara, and Morocco, and then the Palestine and Israel. I mean, the past government had a position. What will be your position vis-a-vis that of the President John Mahama? And we all know what is between them.
This is a very interesting question on geopolitics and what should be our geopolitical positioning. And I would like to make reference to our foreign policy, which Osajefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah presented to this House on the 16th of December, 1959. He talked about Ghana's foreign policy being positively neutral, that we shall not look left or right, we shall look forward. And that is why, after that, he collaborated with his colleagues to establish the non-aligned movement in 1961. So Kwame Nkrumah said that as much as possible, we shall seek to be friends of all and enemies to none. So our posture will remain same. We will seek to be good friends to all of these countries. But being good friends, as Kwame Nkrumah said on the 16th of December 1959, doesn't mean that if along the line there is a misstep, you engage in some violation of international law, you go against the rule-based order, it does not mean that we will not speak out or point it out to you. That is even what shows that we are really good friends. So in these countries you have listed, there are matters that are concerning. For example, the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. We take the view that the humanitarian crisis there is totally unconscionable and unacceptable. And it is with dismay that we will continue to urge for a resolution of the Middle East crisis. We remain committed to the two-state solution so far as the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is concerned. We do not align with hardliners on both sides who say that one state should be totally annihilated, does not deserve to exist. No. We say that let's respect the UN resolution, a two-state solution. On Western Sahara, you may have heard that on the eve of President Akufo-Addo's departure, he instructed that we cut ties with Western Sahara. That certainly has created some anxiety and nervousness, and it marked quite a major departure from our position in the 1960s, 70s, and the 1980s. And you recall that we, in 1982, championed the cause of Western Sahara, which led to Morocco exiting the OAU, as it was known at the time, in 1982. So it was a very significant development, and a lot of our allies on the left are looking at Ghana's new posture. I can assure you that because this is a very sensitive matter, we will be open-minded. We will study exactly what the considerations were, what the experts advised President Akufo-Addo to take such a consequential decision. I mean, when you are in government, you may know things that others would not know. I mean, he receives national security briefings, he's at ECOWAS, OAU, AU now, and all of that, UN. So we want to keep an open mind. We will go and study what the considerations were, what analysis went into this decision. But the assurances I can give you, based on our foreign policy, is that we remain friends of all, enemies of none. Even if diplomatic ties may appear strained, as it is now in the Western Sahara question, it does not mean that our good friends in Western Sahara, we are going to disown them or cut ties with them in terms of the real people-to-people, cultural, and, if you like, ideological ties with them. But it's a sensitive matter. We will go and study it, and then we will look at the way forward. I agree with you that they have allies on both sides. Of course, the Algerians are not happy because of this decision. The Moroccans have welcomed it. They are excited about it. But we need to balance forces based on our strategic national interests. And we will look into it and see how best we find a resolution moving forward.
Thank you. I think I like how you responded, because Ghana has always taken a position, but that's fine. Like you mentioned, you would get to find out in the ministry. I agree. Mr. Nominee, I also want to know, we have a foreign policy. Everybody knows that, non-aligned and all that. But we have also taken some critical interest in international issues, climate change and all that. What is our country's international environmental policy?
Another very important question, and for our generation, that is perhaps the most significant question. Will the human race survive if global warming, the ongoing climate change disruptions continue, if we do not change our way of life? And that is why the COP meetings have become so crucial. Unfortunately, the big players and the big polluters, we are not seeing consistency. They don't want to come to the table really following the science. There are some countries who are saying that they don't even really believe in the science and that it's probably exaggerated. What I like about the foreign ministry is that we facilitate these engagements amongst key sectors. So on climate change, the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology will be the lead ministry. The Lands Ministry will also play a role, and I'm glad that I see the respected former Lands Minister at today's hearings. I know he took part in a lot of the climate change discussions. I followed those meetings keenly. So we will not be the lead ministry when it comes to climate change. It will be the Ministry of Environment, then the Lands Ministry. But we are happy to coordinate, to facilitate the meetings, and to make sure that Ghana is committed to our international obligations. And having said that, let me register our unhappiness at the latest withdrawal by the United States of America from the Paris Climate Accord. That was a very key intervention in the climate change agenda. Ghana played a leading role, I recall, under former President Mahama when he was president at the time. That has clearly created a disruption. But we will continue to urge our big brothers and sisters to come back to the climate change agenda and to commit to a new global order when it comes to climate issues. So that's how I respond.
Thank you.
Chairman, a last follow-up on this. The nominee,
Honorable member, you are either asking your last question. You are entitled to one follow-up,
I'm following up.
which you have asked. So you either move to your last question. After this, I'll give you no opportunity.
I'm going to my last question. I'm going to my last question. Yes, I'm going to my last question. Yes, sure. Mr. Nominee, this, I think it is for the jury out there. There have been a lot of concerns about our female in the Western, the UAE, particularly inhumane treatment, abuses and all that. Even though we admit that it is out of their own private businesses and other things that lands them there, it has some implications on our international imagery. What is going to be the position of this government on this mass movement to UAE, and then it will come back to us as a whole lot of inhumane abuses and all that? What will be the clear-cut position of this government?
Once again, let me commend you for this well-researched question. And this is a matter that I am very benefits our country. It is regulated, and it's a win-win situation. Countries like Cuba, Indonesia, because of their strategic foreign policy, have been able to use their foreign policy. They sign bilateral agreements with other countries. They export labor. So their citizens are well catered for because everything has been signed, is done legally. So their rights are protected. A portion of revenue goes to the country, and then there's another portion that goes to the workers, particularly the Cuban Medical Brigade, if we are to look at the Cuban model. So under my leadership, I will seek to aggressively pursue economic diplomacy in a way that allows for bilateral agreements to be signed. There are many countries looking for Ghanaian nurses, looking for Ghanaian teachers, looking for Ghanaian professionals, looking for Ghanaian workers in the domestic setting, artisans. Why can't we take advantage of that to solve our unemployment crisis and also to regulate the space so that what is happening in the Gulf to some of our workers, our fellow compatriots, is addressed? When these receiving countries know that the labor they have received is not from some clandestine agency engaged in some, human trafficking operation, they will be mindful in how they treat these workers. So expect that one of our priority areas will be using foreign policy to address unemployment. We can make sure that brain drain becomes brain gain, where these bilateral agreements will help create jobs for the young people of our country. You go out there to the UK as a nurse, as a doctor, if it's probably for a 5-year period, you get some new skills, you build capacity, you can decide to come back with some good, foreign currency, and the country also benefits. So expect that we'll formalize these arrangements and we'll be very deliberate and aggressive about it to create jobs for our young people.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Speaker, I want to commend the nominee and once again congratulate him for his appointment.
I move to give the floor to Honorable Oko van der Poy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nominee, congratulations. I'm one of the many Ghanaians who are very happy to see you where you are seated this morning. Nominee, I've worked with you in the 7th Parliament and in the 8th Parliament as my leader on the Foreign Affairs Committee. And I appreciate the leadership skills and knowledge that you bring to where you are sitting this morning. When you get to the ministry, what would be some of your priority areas?
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Oko van der Poy, and thank you for the kind words and the tremendous support you gave me for 8 years on the Foreign Affairs Committee as my deputy ranking. I have just talked about one of the priority areas, economic diplomacy, pursuing bilateral agreements to create jobs for the young people of our country in a regulated migration that benefits the individual and the country. The other thing that I want to reform is our passport regime. There are too many complaints about how difficult it is to get passports and to get them in good time. I have been going through some briefs, and I noticed that we have a backlog of over 70,000 passports that have not been collected. Then there are issues with the middlemen, Goro boys, and all of that. I recall the former foreign minister, the Honorable Sheila Yokobuchi, storming the passport office in frustration and saying that, look, this crisis cannot continue. I would like to use technology to reform our passport regime. I don't think that we should still be requiring Ghanaians who have a Ghana card to go to passport office for their biometrics. This system of silos.
Honorable nominee, the question was your priority areas. You mentioned economic diplomacy, and you mentioned passport acquisition. If there is any other, mention it to us so that we can make progress.
Well, thank you, Chairman. I thought that you will be interested in the details, how I'm going to implement these reforms. So, just to be brief, I get your cue. I would want to engage the Ministry of Communications. I've already started talks with the Honorable Sam George, so that you don't need to go to a passport application center if you have a Ghana card. We should be able to interface. It should be possible to sit at home, apply for your passport. And then also, I want to end this business of going back to the passport office for your passport. It's so outmoded. We can engage courier services to send your passport to you at home or in the office. So modernizing the whole regime as we move from the current biometric to chip embedded passports will be a matter of importance to me. Then the third one, as I conclude, is a reform of the institution, the Foreign Service. I would like to introduce a department that will focus on delivery, the delivery unit. I want us to give clear KPIs to our ambassadors and our high commissioners. Now, where we are in the current global ecosystem, you can't be relying on aid, relying on loans, relying on other countries. Let's aggressively pursue economic diplomacy. When we send you there as an ambassador, it's not just to be attending events. You must bring us something home that will impact the lives of the people. How many investors are you bringing in? How many industries? FDI, and all of that. So they will be giving clear KPIs. Because if you look at last year's budget, we spent more than 875 million Ghana cedis on our foreign service staff alone. That's almost $1 billion. And you ask yourself, these 71 missions out there, what are they bringing in? And
I want to say I'm very happy to see you where you are. And I want to thank His Excellency John Dramani Mahama for your nomination. Thank you.
Thank you. I proceed to give the floor to Honorable Abu Jinapo. Please.
Thank
Honorable
you.
Jinapo, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, let me begin by congratulating the Honorable Okujeto Ablakwa for his nomination to this very high office as, and occupying the shoes of statesmen like Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, Obeda Samoa, Victor Gbeho, and the rest, especially at his age, is quite a significant achievement. And warm congratulations, Honorable Nominee. Mr. Chairman, Honorable Nominee. Mr. Chairman, Ghana's policy, foreign policy, since 1957 has essentially been non-aligned. And as the nominee himself articulated in one of his responses, if I would say, we neither look left or right, we look forward, and we don't take sides. Indeed, if you look at the NDC manifesto, specifically page 160, you will see that that same policy is articulated. And then President Mahama, in his inaugural address, also reiterates the point. Mr. Chairman, I followed the nominee. I've read most of his articles, his presentations, news articles about him and all of that. And it is clear on the evidence that the nominee is a leftist. He's a leftist. I would say he's a socialist. I will refrain myself from saying that he's a communist. I will refrain myself from saying so. You will see, Mr. Chairman, that the nominee, for example, wrote a tribute to His Excellency John Pombi Makafuli and delivered it on the floor of Parliament when he died on 17th March 2021. And therefore, Mr. Chairman, the nominee's views are known as a radical left. How is he going to marry his obvious personal ideological leanings and inclinations, which he's on many occasions said he's very proud of, in wiggling his way through this complex international geopolitics of the left and right as it relates to Ghana's policy of non-aligned? Thank you.
This question could have been asked without making reference to all those documents. Please proceed to answer the question.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Chairman, let me place on record that I am not a communist. Of course, I am left of center. All of us in the NDC subscribe to the left of center political ideology, which we are very, very proud of. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama has worn the badge proudly because we believe in the welfare state and we believe in humanism to our economic interventions that don't encourage exploitation, particularly by a few elites. So you are right about where I belong ideologically, left of center, which is where my party, the NDC, belongs. So I am very much at home. Having said that, let us remember Kwame Nkrumah's tact and skillful approach to our foreign policy. Kwame Nkrumah was on the left, but he managed to, at the height of the Cold War, a bipolar era, to still get the Americans to support him in the construction of the Akosombo Dam, and to still have the Russians to help him in building our atomic agency. So that model is what we must adopt. So our friends know where we belong ideologically, but they respect us and they know that we don't mean harm or we don't bear grudge or have any malice. We are friends of all and enemies to none. So be rest assured that even though I have left leanings, I will be very objective in pursuing our foreign policy, which Article 40 says must be guided by our national interests. Kwame Nkrumah did it. President Mahama has been doing it, receiving support from all sides. And in the current multipolar world, be rest assured that I will attend to this responsibility with all fairness and objectivity. Note from my CV that in the 8th Parliament, I was chair of the Ghana-Cuba Parliamentary Friendship Association, but also very active in our U.S. Ghana Parliamentary Friendship Association, indeed a proud member of the American Council of Young Political Leaders. So there are a few of us who straddle and who are liked by all sides because we are very objective in our dealings. So be rest assured, I consider myself a good friend of all the forces at play in the global arena.
Chairman, that is reassuring, and I think, Mr. Chairman, it's important that we lay the proper foundations before we ask the questions so that both the nominee and the country...
Please don't litigate with me.
No, I'm not litigating, Chairman. I'm just... So I have a follow-up question. Now, again, Mr. Chairman, the nominee is on record to have, you know, if you want, not so much criticize, but raise substantive and significant issues with Ukraine as opposed to the West in the Ukraine-Russian war. And I have an article here where the nominee indicates that the war between Russia and Ukraine, which has been roundedly condemned by all international organizations, the United Nations, African Union, ECOWAS, and the rest, is as a result of Ukrainians' failure of foreign policy. Mr. Chairman, also the nominee is on record to have taken issues with the West in its dealings with Israel as it relates to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And the point I seek to make is that the nominee is obviously, in his years of activism, taking sides in these two major international conflicts of the world. If he gets the nod of this committee and parliament, how is he going to navigate his way through this complex issue of Ukraine-Russian war, Palestinian-Israeli war, mindful of its rippling effects in the global geopolitics? How's he going to do that? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and let me commend the Honorable Abu Jinapo for the well-researched question. The challenge that we all face, I've served on the appointments committee, is that you have to summarize, and so you can't read these articles in full. But those who will want to pay regard to the articles, you see that I try to be very objective and balanced and more nuanced than the summary.
The conclusion, whether you've taken sides, is it correct?
No, the conclusion is far-fetched. I have not taken sides. And Mr. Chairman, I know you'll be happy to hear that I have been invited by both sides. There are probably few people who have achieved that. The Russians invited me, and I was guest in their parliament. There was a second invitation where I went with former President Mahama to launch his book at the Russian Academy of Sciences, the Russian translation. And then the Ukrainians invited me. I spent a week there. We were, touring Kiev and other places. We went to the landmines. I helped them to even demine, some of the Russian mines that had been left in Ukraine. So that should tell you. I mean, the countries don't have any issues with me. Israel has invited me on a number of occasions. The Palestinians have also done that. Indeed, the Palestinian ambassador in Ghana is one of my very, very good friends. And so is the Israeli ambassador. So please be rest assured that despite my ideological stance on these matters, you will see objectivity. But Article 40 is clear. We must also, in the pursuit of our foreign policy, be guided by international law, a rule-based order, international principles. So where our friends err, we should be bold to point it out. Because as Nkrumah said on the 16th of December 1959, when he presented our foreign policy to Parliament, he said that we will not be passive spectators, that as good friends, when you err, when you commit genocide, when you commit atrocities against women and children, we will point it out to you. And it does not make us bad friends. It rather, makes us very, very good friends. So that's the position I take on these matters.
Thank you very much. Your last question? Or you have a follow-up on this?
This was a follow-up on the first question.
It cannot be.
No, it was.
It cannot be.
I said so that it was a follow-up.
No. The fact that you said so doesn't mean it should be a follow-up.
No, it was
Please.
a follow-up
ask a follow-up question whether he is taking sides in these various wars that we have mentioned. Please go ahead with a follow-up question on this.
Mr. Chairman, respectfully, I asked a question about his leanings on taking sides, and I made a follow-up on the specific issue of whether or not you take sides. It was all about taking sides. Thank you.
How is he going to marry?
No, it was taking sides. And then I gave a specific example, whether he takes sides.
Please, your last question.
Last question?
If you have a follow-up on this, I will allow it.
Mr. Chairman, no. This is it. I can give you the documentations I use. No, because it's a follow-up. It was a follow-up on the first question. Thank you. So, Mr. Chairman, the question I want to ask the nominee, which is the second question, is the nominee, if he's given the nod as foreign minister, as I said initially, it's a very high office. And as he himself has been articulating, it will require, in his words, rules-based. It will require a lot of fairness, objectivity, and all of that. Mr. Chairman, on 23rd December 2024, the nominee made a post where he alleged that unimpeachable evidence from the Lands Commission shows that the two daughters of President Akufo-Addo have acquired some state lands in cantonments, and that amounted to state capture. Mr. Chairman, the company which was the subject matter of this allegation was Nsunam Company Limited. Mr. Chairman, a search at the Lands Commission will show that the land in question is the property of administrators of the estate of Justice, the late Justice Johnson Sribo, a former Justice of the Supreme Court and Chairman of the Electoral Commission, who acquired the land as far back as 1969, specifically on 1st June 1969. And indeed, Mr. Chairman, at the time, the president's children were not even born. The subject matter land was acquired by the state, Mr. Chairman, as far back as 1869, and the lease will end in 2069. So clearly, this land is not state land. The president's children did not buy state land. On the evidence, on the record, it is absolutely clear that they did not buy state land. Will the nominee concede, given that he's seeking to be foreign minister and will be required to be fair to all manner of persons, that the president's children were wrongly accused and he will apologize to them? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, your quick answer.
Well, thank you very much for the question. The Honorable Abu Jinapo will recall that when I put out that article, I supported the article with evidence from the Lands Commission. I attached an official search that I had conducted on those two lands. Indeed, those are lands that you have in Somnam and then the lot boutique, a fashion boutique. And I sought to inquire from the Lands Commission the status, the ownership of the land. And the Lands Commission responded in that official search, which I published. And Ghanaians can go on my social media handles. You see the official search results, where the Lands Commission, in their response, indicated that all those lands are government lands. So in my article, I asked a question. Is this another state capture? Is President Akufo-Addo allocating state lands to his daughters? It was a question based on empirical evidence, what the Lands Commission had told me in writing as official search results when I put in that official search. So there is really no need to apologize on this matter. We need to probably be discussing reforming the Lands Commission. You were Lands Minister. If you think that the Lands Commission misled me, you need to join us with ideas on how to reform the Lands Commission, get their data to be more accurate, so that when we conduct official search, what they tell us, the reports that they give us, their search certificates, are not misleading, because all of the facts you put out, I don't know them. In 1979, I wasn't born.
Thank you.
The Lands Commission told me they are government lands, and I have the documents here.
Thank you.
To confirm
Thank you
that. So
very much. Thank you very much.
It's not my fault.
Any follow-up on the land acquisition?
Mr. Chairman, my follow-up will be that I have in my hands, and this is all about government lands. Of course, I mean, the nominee is literally established and conceded that the president's daughter did not buy state lands. If they were government lands as far back as 1969, they were not state lands at the time when they were tenants. As you know, they are tenants of that place.
Please,
but
your
anyway,
follow-up question. Please, your follow-up question.
Mr. Chairman, please, this being a house of records, I have not admitted.
I know.
I haven't said
house
that.
of record.
I'm saying that
you never
the record
admitted.
I have, what the Lands Commission gave me.
Therefore,
when
you
I conduct
won't
official
rescind your
search.
decision
Yes.
and apologize.
So
please
I'm
go ahead with
I'm
your
not
question.
changing my stance on the matter.
I've not litigated that. I will not litigate that. All that I said was that the evidence is clear that the land was bought as far back as 1969. The president's children are just tenants, so they did not buy state land. That's the point I'm making. It's not, I'm not litigating with you, Mr. Nominee. I'm just setting the record straight that they did not buy state land as you suggested. So, Mr. Chairman, the follow-up will be, and this really is flowing from the issue of the nominees' standing and reputation on the protection of public funds, state lands, and all of that. And the question is simple. I mean, I know the chairman is in a hurry to move on with his vetting.
So long as the question relates to the acquisition as a follow-up, I will allow it.
Yes.
But if not, I will overrule you.
Well, it relates to the protection of state estates, generally speaking. And the question is very simple. In that protection, Mr. Chairman, you will see that the nominee has, on multiple occasions, asked for, quote, the state to eschew frivolous foreign travels by government officials, end quote, and gone at great length to make the point about how we need to be frugal. I know that the foreign minister travels on first-class ticket. Will he travel on economy ticket when he's made foreign minister?
Accordingly, the question is overruled. There can't be a follow-up question on acquisition of land. You are done. I then give the floor to Honorable Ziwera. Honorable Ziwera, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the opportunity to congratulate my boss and my mentor and to wish him well. Congratulations, Honorable Ablakwa. Your leadership has been exemplary. Mr. Chairman, I served with Honorable Ablakwa on the Foreign Affairs Committee. And if you look for a team player, you'll find it in Honorable Ablakwa. Honorable Ablakwa, extent of knowledge in the foreign ministry and international relations makes him the best choice, actually, for this position. And I want to commend highly President Mahama for giving us this choice. We know that with your extensive experience, with your knowledge, and with your excellent human relations, you are going to lift the flag of Ghana very high in the Committee of Nations. I can only wish you well, and I say congratulations, Honorable Ablakwa. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Order. Order. Thank you. Order. Order. I proceed to give the floor to Honorable Soa.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. Honorable nominee, my Anglican brother, I wish to congratulate you on your nomination by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama. And I am sure and I trust that you are going to deliver well to the people of Ghana. My question how will you make our embassies and high commissions more responsive to Ghanaians in the diaspora?
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Odole. I call her the MP with the most embassies in Ghana. Virtually all the embassies and high commissions are in her constituency. This is a very, very important question, and Ghanaians in the diaspora are really concerned about how our embassies and high commissions can be more responsive. As ranking member, I advocated strongly for the establishment of a consular fund. I was shocked to learn that our hardworking foreign service staff have to sometimes contribute their own money from their pockets to assist distressed Ghanaians out there who need consular assistance. In the budget for the foreign service, we don't have a line item for consular relations. You know, under the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations, 1963, countries must extend these courtesies to their citizens. So, as foreign minister, when given the nod, I will make sure that we establish the consular fund. We must make sure that this fund exists, that can be assessed by our foreign service staff to extend assistance, particularly in this period where the United States has announced mass deportations. Those who may be rounded up to be deported are entitled to consular support. We must get them legal assistance so that they are not just rounded up and deported, their rights violated. You know, sometimes even in the deportation, how they are deported, sometimes chained to seats and all of that, treated as criminals. That is a violation of their human rights. It affronts their dignity. And these are matters that I will pursue forcefully. So we will seek to establish the consular fund. And in the KPIs that we will be drafting for our diplomats, we will also make sure that they prioritize the needs, the concerns, and the plight of Ghanaians who are living abroad. Because really, why establish an embassy if you cannot take care of Ghanaians within that jurisdiction? So that will be a priority area. And I thank you for bringing it up.
Thank you. I'm sure our brothers and sisters out there will be excited about your response. I wish to wish you well on your appointment as the Foreign Minister for the Republic of Ghana, and I pray God's blessings for you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I proceed to recognize Honorable Amprechum.
Thank you, Chairman, for this opportunity. Honorable Sami, we meet again. Honorable Samuel Okujetua Blakwa, MP for the good people of Northton. You are at the verge of becoming the #3 diplomat of this great country of Ghana, after His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, the President, Her Excellency Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman, the Vice President. Honorable nominee, permit me to remind you that the international arena that you are going to operate in and the diplomatic circles that you are going to engage in is very different from the political terrain that you have been dancing with your propaganda theatrics.
Honorable member, you haven't started well. You are out of order. I'll give you the floor to start well.
Thank you.
Else I'll rule you out.
We have worked and engaged. I have worked and engaged with you on the Foreign Affairs Committee for 8 years, including the last 4 years as the immediate past Deputy Foreign Minister for Political and Economic Affairs. And I can say, without any shred of doubt, that you have the capacity and the capabilities to rise up to the responsibilities of the position of the Minister for Foreign Affairs. If, and only if, you change your suit of sometimes giving disinformation. And I have two references as my basis for making that point, and it's extremely important, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. The question is overruled. Ask another question.
Mr. Ablakwa, some 3 or 4 years back, you started a crusade when the ministry was about to purchase a chancellery in Oslo. You came up with all kinds of stories that eventually turned out to be untrue. Eventually, it encouraged a Norwegian lawyer to take Ghana government to court, which eventually ended up in the Supreme Court of Norway. Even though we won it, it cost us a lot of money because of what you did, the information that you put out there, which, like I said, encouraged the Norwegian lawyer to pursue a matter which he had no case.
Order.
That is number one. Number two, recently,
please, are you asking one question or you are asking two questions at the same time?
No. Mr. Chairman, I am laying the foundation for the question. Please, I'm laying the foundation for the question. Without the foundation, it will be difficult for me to ask the particular question that I want to ask. Now, so the first one was to do with the Norwegian, the purchase of the Norwegian chancellery. The second one, recently, you put out that the ministry has signed up with a company, Access Citizen Ghana Limited, which are supposed to provide front-end premium consular services, just like the services being provided by VFS. And Access Ghana is providing that services to some selected missions abroad. Your accusation was that some corrupted transaction of about $38 million, and that the Ghana government was being shortchanged. There is no truth in this particular matter. Now, in the course of making these allegations, you indicated, and it's constantly something that you've been doing, that you have intercepted. I have intercepted documents. Now, here is the case that you are coming to work in a ministry where you have constantly been saying that you have intercepted, which presupposes that some staff in the ministry has been giving you these documents, or you have been encouraging it. Confidential documents. All the staff in there have signed up to an oath of secrecy and confidentiality. And you are constantly out there saying that you have intercepted. You have intercepted. Putting these officers in very difficult situations. Now that you are coming to work in this particular ministry, how would you take it if documents are leaked and it's being encouraged by, let's say, an outsider?
Honorable Amprachum, what is your question?
I have asked it.
Honorable member, go ahead and answer the question.
No.
Devoid of the aspect of how you are intercepting the documents.
He understands.
Go ahead, answer the questions, devoid of how you intercept the documents. Because of what I've always been saying, that we have the Whistleblowers Act.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Chairman. And I see that my good brother, the Honorable Amprechum, is probably aspiring to become the next chief interceptor. Let me, on a more serious note, assure the good people of this country that all I have done in my interceptions, in my oversight, in pursuing parliamentary due diligence has always been
Honorable members, let me place on record that I don't want any disruption today. If you are not a member of the committee and you can't comport yourself, kindly walk out.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, as I was saying, all the interceptions, the parliamentary oversight, the due diligence I have carried out as MP and ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee has been in the national interest. Indeed, many Ghanaians have celebrated me for saving this country's billions of dollars, not cedis, dollars. I can go through a long list of over 100 exposés which have saved this country billions of dollars. And I will have thought that my colleague will be commending me for saving this country billions of dollars. On the specific matters you raise, Oslo Chancery purchase. Again, I should be commended that I saved this country $12.2 million. Remember that you had appeared before us that you were going to purchase that chancery. You brought us the information that you were about to purchase that chancery based on the $50 million facility that the Honorable Hannah Tete secured before she left the ministry. I then decided to carry out due diligence. And in the work that I did, not being an armchair ranking member who is told that we are going to buy a chancery and then I give you approval, blank check, yeah, go ahead, go and buy it. When I did the due diligence, I discovered that the property had been purchased a few months before Ghana was going to buy it for $12.2 million, for $4 million. And I raised alarm. Indeed, the court documents that I have read, and you rightly confirmed that the Norwegian property owner took the government of Ghana to court. The defense of Ghana is that your ministry, the foreign ministry, did not authorize the official who went to commit Ghana. And that is why Ghana then won the case, and that official was chastised that she didn't have the full approval and authorization to go purchase that chancery. So what I put out was not false. It was fact. The court documents confirm it. You yourself told the judges. The Attorney General, Godfrey Dame, represented us in the Norwegian courts and said that that foreign service official did not have your authorization. The court records are there. I can produce them if the chairman wants to see them. So it's a confirmation of what I put out. And I should rather be commended. But for me, if what you told the court is true, it means you wouldn't have known that your officials in Norway were committing you to this outrageous purchase, which will have cost Ghana money. So please commend me. I saved Ghana money. Then on access, the visa deal. I'm again surprised that you say that that matter is not true. And you see, you can't have it both ways. You can't be complaining about leaks, that people are leaking documents to me from the ministry. And at the same time, you say that I'm just engaged in, putting out a figment of my imagination. I can confirm today that thanks to the oversight that I carried out, the latest information when I was briefed by the directors at the ministry is that That whole transaction did not follow due process. It did not follow the Procurement Act. If it was PPA, if it was a PPP arrangement, it required parliamentary approval. All of that was not followed. So they showed me documents confirming that the ministry has rescinded, has backed out of the deal. And indeed, they've gotten access to write a letter committing that they were no longer going ahead with that agreement. Again, I saved Ghana $38 million. So, please, I know that sometimes when we carry out our oversight, it may not be pleasing to you, but we do it not with malice, not because we don't like you. It's just love for country. As I always say, for God and country. It's a tough job. I'm not happy that so some of you will not like me and all of that. But somebody has to do it. Somebody has to step in and save the country money. And that's my only motivation. All the scandals I've put out have been confirmed. Indeed, those who even went to court seeking to take me on, they lost. Check all the court cases. Because I make sure that I always secure unimpeachable, irrefutable, and incontrovertible evidence before I put these matters out. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further question?
Question. Mr. Chairman, I go back to this 38 million. It is not true that you have saved Ghana $38 million because Ghana was not going
Honorable member, it is not for you to establish, it is not for you to establish whether it is true or it is not true. If you want to go that tangent, we may not be able to. You have asked a question, the nominee has provided the answer. So how do we create the opportunity for you to say it is not true? He also say it is true. So please take his answer, whether true or not. So proceed to answer, to ask another question.
Before due respect, in that particular transaction, Ghana government was not going to pay any money. That is the point I am making. So if Ghana government is not going to pay any money, how do you save Ghana government that money? That is the point I'm making.
Is that your question?
That is the point I was just trying to clarify.
You are not here to make a point. You can put that to him as a question, and then you can elicit the answer.
Okay. Mr. Nominee, would you agree with me? That was the investigation that you did, and you said the briefing that you had from the officers at the ministry. You came to the conclusion that you did save Ghana the 38 million, and that Ghana was going to pay the 38 million. And if that was the case, can you please tell the committee how that payment was going to happen or come about? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your response, please.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Chairman. I thought that the former Honorable Deputy Minister will confirm that they have backed out of that agreement since my expose. I think that's a more fundamental point, that if you felt that nothing untoward had happened, that everything was kosher, that it was a good deal, why did you run away from it when, I did the expose? So,
please, you are not entitled to ask him questions. So provide answers, yes, Chairman, to the question he asked.
I appreciate the guidance. So let's be clear. The $38 million is what Access, the company, stood to benefit from that agreement based on the percentage that will go to that company. If the current arrangement is maintained, where the embassies are allowed to carry out their visa processing, that money comes to Ghana, which is the current arrangement. That is why the head of missions were not happy about this arrangement, because Ghana was going to lose money. You were taking money out of the missions, out of IGF, for a private entity. That was the nature of the transaction. That is why I conclude, based on the conservative analysis we did, that we have saved Ghana $38 million. And I can make the agreement available, Mr. Chairman, if the committee would want to see it.
Thank you very much. Any
Chairman,
further questions, or you are done?
There are further questions. I don't want to go there again because I was highly involved in this particular matter that he's spoken about. Mr. Chairman, I will want to ask the nominee, honorable nominee, in the international multilateral arena. It is changing rapidly. Big alliances are reshaping in a very dynamic ways. How do you plan to champion a strong African representation in the international systems?
Well, thank you very much for this well-informed question. And I wish I had 1 hour to answer this, but I certainly don't. You are right.
Please, did you say you need 1 hour to answer the question?
I said I certainly don't have that. So
please.
So, Mr. Chairman, first of all, the changing global dynamics have to be appreciated. We are clearly now in a multipolar world. We've moved from unipolar to bipolar. Now we are in multipolar. We are seeing the growing influence of the BRICS countries. Some of our citizens are even beginning to mount pressure that perhaps we should join BRICS, just as Nigeria did a few weeks ago. And we all know that BRICS is now presenting very interesting options. They have the new development bank, which has about $100 billion available in there, a combined GDP of about 27 trillion US dollars, 40% of the world's population. So in terms of market, that is a large market share. And we all know that our biggest trading partner now is China. And China is at the center, is right in there in this BRICS arrangement. So I think that Africa should really come to this table in a united way. Imagine what we can achieve, as Osajefo said, if we unite. At the UN, for example, the African bloc is the biggest bloc. We have more votes at the UN, but unfortunately we are not united. We don't vote in a particular way. Different, considerations. And it's the same challenge even with trade. Intra-Africa trade is still hovering under 20%. We trade more with Europe and Asia than we trade amongst ourselves. A very, very sad situation. And that's why Kwame Nkrumah muted the idea of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area in Addis Ababa in 1963. It took more than 40 years for it to now be coming into fruition, albeit in a very slow pace. So my response to you will be that let us unite. And I'm glad that President Mahama has so much goodwill. Look at the number of heads of states who attended his inauguration. And already he has so many invitations. He's just returned from Tanzania, Kenya, and everybody wants to, host him and have a discussion with him. And I think that he has that potential of not only becoming the focal point, a potential AU chairman, to really galvanize Africa and get the African nations to unite so that together we can have a common position on what the African interests should be. So that would be my approach, going back to the Nkrumah template of Africa must unite. Let's present a common force. And with that, we are talking about a market of about 1.5 billion. If we unite, we will be such a force that nobody can dare mess with us. But the challenge has been disunity. And that is really my philosophical outlook on these matters.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
You just mentioned the African Continental Free Trade. Yes. Mr. Nominee, until the NPP government was able to secure the use of Ghana as the base for the AFTA Secretariat, Ghana has been an active member of many multilateral platforms. but hasn't really attracted any significant secretariat comparable to the AU in Addis Ababa, or the UN office in Nairobi, or ECOWAS in Abuja. This is important because the borders are attracting jobs into their countries, or these countries are attracting jobs and opportunities into their countries. As Foreign Minister, how do you plan to leverage this position, Ghana being the Secretariat of AFTA, to attract something tangible into the country?
I mean, certainly I have gone on record in this House to commend your government for securing the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat. And I added, if you recall in that presentation, that it is a testimony of what we can achieve when we unite. I recall that former President Akufo-Addo reached out to former President Mahama, former President Rawlings, God bless his soul, former President Kufuor, and all of us across the divide, and said, look, let's form a joint campaign team and campaign for this secretariat. And that is why we were such a formidable force and we secured it. So I'm a bit disappointed that you have tried to partisan it and you have discounted the contributions that all of these former heads of states, particularly from my side of the political divide, did. And don't forget that the reason why it was also easy for Ghana to win the secretariat is because of Ghana's consistency. Kwame Nkrumah had mooted this idea on 25th May 1963, and then in 2012, January 2012, Professor John Evans Atta Mills, a renowned Nkrumahist, revived the discussion at the 18th ordinary session of the AU. He moved a motion that we must go back to the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. And that is why heads of state said that, look, Ghana's consistency on this matter, you are deserving to host the secretariat. So I think that it's a collective effort, CPP, NDC, MPP, all of us, and it shouldn't be partisan. But having said that, the thrust of your question is how we can leverage this. We need to make sure that we are hosting and winning. So as we host, we are getting more jobs created. Often there are concerns when these secretariats begin to recruit that it doesn't really favor locals and that they bring in a lot of outsiders. And these outsiders often get the top jobs. And then, you know, we are left with jobs that are not that rewarding. I intend to engage with the dynamic Secretary General, Wankele Meni, and I think that we should look at a plan on how we can really leverage on hosting, because we are spending so much money hosting. Some of the staff have also expressed concern about their working conditions and all of that. And I think that these are matters we can discuss in confidence and see how we boost employment opportunities for our people.
Because I overrule your first question, you have your last questions to ask.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honorable Ablakwa, I do wish you well. And I know you will succeed. My last question. The African Union seems to have a credibility problem among young Africans, in that it is perceived as weak and toothless on the international stage. For example, in matters regarding the overstay of certain African leaders in power, the countless tragic deaths of African migrants crossing Sahara and the Mediterranean, and in the vocal defense of African interest on the global stage, the organization is found wanting. The AU, unlike the EU, appears to be too timid on behalf of its people. What would you, as Foreign Minister, do to help change this negative perception about the AU?
Well, thank you very much, Honorable former Minister, for your kind wishes. And I must place on record that former Deputy Minister, that you prophesied 8 years ago that I will be Minister. of Foreign Affairs. So I was quite surprised when in your earlier submissions you sought to take me on. But, Mr. Chairman, on a more serious note, if the Osagefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was alive, his response to this, your question, will be, I told you so. Remember that when he led the Casablanca group, he wanted a more integral, united African states, a strong political force. He added that we must have a standby force, military force, we must have a bank, we must have a common currency, we must remove all trade barriers, trade tariffs, artificial borders, which are relics of the Berlin Conference when Otto von Bismarck called his friends in Europe and shared Africa amongst themselves. But unfortunately, the Monrovia group prevailed. And they said, let's have a loose union without an Africa standby force, without a bank, and all of these, political structures that the visionary Kwame Nkrumah put forward. So I think at the heart of this perception of the AU is about continental Africa unity and how we must go back to the original Nkrumah blueprint as was espoused by the Casablanca group. And I am glad that already those talks have begun within the AU. There are massive reforms going on. Indeed, some countries have even said that they will not pay their full access contributions unless they see greater reform and see the AU become more, transparent and more, beneficial to the African people. So it's good that those discussions are continuing. President Paul Kagame is leading the reforms, and President Mahama has already struck a very good, chord with him, and I'm sure that they will continue to champion those reforms. But ultimately, you may call me an Nkrumahist, but ultimately, we must go back to Kwame Nkrumah's vision of the United States of Africa. That really is what will make the AU strong and
thank you very much.
More impactful.
I will proceed to give the floor to
my follow-up, please.
Your follow-up on this.
My question. This
very
is
well,
my follow-up.
very well.
Mr. Nominee, let me take you on to social media because you are a key player in that particular area. Social media has become a source of misinformation and disinformation, undermining the ability of leaders in West Africa to mobilize public support for its decisions and development agenda. You are one of the leading politicians who uses social media a lot to get your message and interest across. Looking at the generality of the situation and the concerns across the political divide, what are some of the initiatives that you will promote to overcome this dangerous development?
Well, thank you very much. I take the view that social media is a double-edged sword. It can be a force for good, and then if it's misused, it can be weaponized and, used as a destructive element. I think that African leaders should become conscious of the new age, new media, and we should encourage more transparency. My view is that if African leaders and African governments adopt an open governance architecture, if they are more transparent, they are more accountable, then the people will know. Knowledge is power. It will not be easy for the people to be misled. Unfortunately, in Africa, you struggle to get information. If you are not an interceptor general, then God help you, So, Mr. Chairman, I really would say that let's have more open governance. The RTI has been passed in Ghana, but in terms of its success in implementation, there is much to be desired. And then our regulatory bodies should clamp down on those who are misusing social media for disinformation, misinformation. They create fake accounts. And unfortunately, even some governments on the continent are responsible. They have these fake news factories. They pay people to just, put out fake news. Will you believe that on my way to this vetting, few days in the run-up to this vetting, there was fake news all over that I have started deleting my Facebook messages, my Facebook exposés. All over, people were sharing it. And some people believed it, that I'm indeed deleting my Facebook posts. Why will I? I'm not a coward. I'm not one to, I stand by my convictions. I'm a conviction politician. So fake news is a real problem. But I think that as for social media, it's come to stay. Let's encourage more open governance, more transparency, and we should be fine with social media.
Thank you very much. I'll give the floor to Haji Aladi Ayamba, Honorable.
Always soared high. I like the energy and the way you have always been able to work. And I would say, indeed, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama has done exactly what is expected to him, because he has rewarded hard work for not only the party, but Ghana as a whole, and for all of us. Now, my question is, there is an acronym that has now become an international song. When even people say it, others will begin running. Someone wanted to say helter skelter and said skelter skelter. So, and the acronym is ORAL. Operation Recover or Loot. I know you wouldn't belong to any team that will be doing anything adverse. So far, my observations and what I've seen, it has been good. Because I've listened, I have watched. Now, sooner than later, ORAL as a team needs to have a way forward. What is ORAL going to do so that all the things that you have done, the time, and now that you are not even being paid, you are just doing a yeoman's job, it wouldn't go waste. We would actually benefit from it. And then, can you tell us also, apart from the way forward, can you tell us also, this particular activity that you have undertaken, how much have you saved Ghanaians from these corrupt activities that has bedeviled the country and taken so much from Ghanaian taxpayers? Thank you.
Honorable member, proceed to ask the question. But because we don't have any evidence of evaluation of how much ORAL has been able to save, proceed to answer the question minus that. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Chairman. And let me commend my big sister for her question and thank her for her kind words. She's been one of our mothers. We all go to her for advice, and she's always generous with her counseling and guidance. Mr. Chairman, as I said in my introduction, one of the jobs that I am so proud of, and I'll remain ever so proud of, is this sacrificial job to chair ORAL, Operation Recover or Loot, which is a major plank in President Mahama's anti-corruption drive. The establishment of ORAL is such a master stroke, and President Mahama ought to be commended. I can reveal to you today that since Oral was established, just by the establishment of the team and we receiving information from the general public, we have saved this country 20 bungalows which were going to be demolished. 20. And I can provide the list. Bungalows that were being occupied by staff of Research Department of the Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Gender, the CSIR. Bulldozers had moved in, but because they called the Oral Secretariat, and we then called National Security to take action, they were able to protect these bungalows. I have not added the Du Bois Center, the NDA lands, which were about to be captured. So President Mahama has saved this country a great deal with the establishment of Oral, and all of us must support Oral. Now we are having an international discussion. Many people forget that Oral has international dimensions. I need not remind our colleagues here that President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has been an Oral champion in the international arena. Why do I say that? He has been advocating for reparation, that our colonial masters who looted Africa, they should bring it back, return our monies, our artifacts, return the loot. So I'm so shocked that our friends who started Oral even before President Mahama won the election in the international arena, when they come home, they don't want to hear about Oral. This is quite remarkable. You know, and I would have thought that charity will begin at home. You want the Brits and the French and the Dutch and others to return the loot. But back home, you want looters to go scot-free. Let's not do anything about looting. I find it really contradictory. So let's see some consistency. The other international dimension about Oral is that if you check the ECOWAS protocols, the AU Charter, and all the UN charters and all of that, anti-corruption is a major, major plank. According to the World Bank, Africa is losing about $88 billion every year because of corruption. $88 billion, and those are conservative estimates. Imagine what that money, if it stays in the continent, used for the development of the people's welfare, how our continent will look like. So as for Oral, all of us must support it. And if you look at what has gone on in this country over the last 8 years, look, I have a tall list of monies that can be retrieved. SkyTrain, we can get our $2.5 million back. Ejapa, we can get our $12 million back. National Cathedral, we can get our $58 million back.
Honorable Member, these
SML,
are projections.
Yes.
Are these projections?
Projections.
Honorable Member.
Projections.
Honorable
No,
Member.
but I think that it's important to contextualize so that, you see, when we talk about Oral, people discuss Oral in abstract terms. This House, Mr. Chairman, and it's unfortunate that the ranking member is not here. Mr. Chairman, if you pardon me.
Honorable Member, is there a document that you want to refer to?
Yes, please, and to also table the document.
You need to seek leave to refer to it.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I want to first secure the document, and then I will table it with your permission. Pardon me, I have quite a number of documents here.
Please, just conclude your answer on this. Then we can make progress. Honorable Member.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
We have a very tall list today.
Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have found it. It is a report of this House, your report, Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, a report of the ad hoc committee to investigate the procurement contract between the government of the Republic of Ghana and His Highness Sheikh Ahmed Dalmouk Al Maktoum and SL Global for the supply of Sputnik V COVID-19 vaccines. Mr. Chairman, this document, submitted to Mr. Speaker, adopted by this House, August 2021, signed by the Honorable Alexander K. Afenyo-Markin, Chairman of the Ad Hoc Committee. This was their conclusion. Paragraph 12.4. Quote, with your permission, Mr. Chairman. The committee urges the Minister for Finance to take steps to recover the money due to the Republic in respect of the amount of $2,850,000 United States dollars, so $2.85 million, equivalent at the time to 60,331,640 Ghana cedis, being the cost of the Sputnik V vaccines that were procured wrongly. Adopted by this House. So, Afenyo-Markin, the Honorable Afenyo-Markin, signed this report.
I was part of that committee.
Yes, thank you very much, Honorable Yafo. Yes, I'd even forgotten that. So, even as a House, we have been doing oral with the support of Honorable Afenyo-Markin, signing documents, also concerned about monies that have been looted that we cannot find. So why will you fight President Mahama when you have some of these reports that you yourselves have signed, urging retrieval from a finance minister? So, as for oral, it has come to stay. The second part of a question about the future of oral. Let me place on record that our job at this point is just to collect
Honorable Member, just limit yourself to the scope of the question.
Yes. Yes, she asked about the future of ORA. It's important. And many Ghanaians have been asking since my appointment. Many Ghanaians have been asking. The way forward for oral. The way forward for oral is that all the information that have come from patriotic Ghanaians, we will be handing over our report soon, in the next few days, to His Excellency the President, the appointor. And then he will decide with his Attorney General on the second phase of ORA, which is the execution phase, the retrieval phase.
Thank you very much.
So that is the
Thank you very much. Question.
Who are there and causing these problems, which can readily escalate, are also human beings and need to be listened to Will you do that? Thank you.
I can assure you, Honorable Hajia Ladi, that that will be pursued. It is a priority of President Mahama. That's why he's appointed a special envoy to the Sahel in the person of Lieutenant Colonel Beflo Latte. And you are close to the challenge, and I'm glad about how eloquently you speak about it. I mean, those who think we should leave them to be on their own, no. I mean, when the violence escalates, we will be the immediate harboring point for refugees, for even some of these, extremists who will come in with weapons. There are small arms and sophisticated weapons that will, be brought into our jurisdiction. And don't forget, we are already having challenges in Boku. So it presents such a toxic mix. And so if we do not help to quench the fires in these our neighboring countries, we are at real risk. And there will be no stability. And what we have going for us is our stability. Without peace and stability, nothing else can be achieved. It is so fundamental. And so you have our fullest assurances that my marching orders from President Mahama is to support the special envoy to make sure that we are able to pursue peace and get our three neighboring countries, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, back into the ECOWAS fold, and we'll remain committed to that.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Thank you, Chairman. I don't have any further questions. I just wish you all the best, and I do my heart off for you. Thank you, and take care.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I will recognize Alasan Uma.
Thank you, Chairman, for the opportunity. Minister nominee, congratulations, my brother and comrade. I haven't listened to you on your answers regarding the oral. I know how I could tell the selflessness and patriotic ideals and your initial left-centered ideology. So I want to find out how, now that you are a foreign minister or as a foreign minister, how do you intend to marry the two? Because on the resume, you are the chairperson or chairman of ORA. And you are also becoming, God's willing, the next foreign minister. How do you intend to marry the two? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. A very brilliant
question. Thank you very much, but let me place on record that you are not yet a foreign minister unless you are giving the nod. Thank you. Proceed to answer the question.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. A very brilliant question. And as I indicated earlier, ORAL's mandate will continue even from this first phase of information gathering into the second phase of actual retrievals, recoveries, prosecutions, when the Attorney General decides that there is basis for that. Now, your brilliant question about how I can also continue to support the process. Within the international arena, we have mechanisms of recovering loot, which have been shipped to various, havens and destinations. If you take, for example, what happened to the Abacha loot in Nigeria, they needed international collaboration. And the World Bank was very supportive to help Nigeria recover hundreds of millions of dollars of the Abacha loot, particularly from Switzerland and other destinations. So I see my role as a role that will help. I'm not going to say that Oral is behind me. No, even though the next phase, the Attorney General will be leading the effort. But when he calls on me to bring in the international dimension, facilitate how to work with international organizations to retrieve loot in other jurisdictions, certainly I'll be more than happy. Relying on the Nigerian model, how they use their international partners to retrieve the Abacha loot, I think that we can also use that to retrieve loot that is hiding in all manner of places for the development of our people. Our people need that money for roads, for schools, for hospitals, for good water, and we have to help them retrieve their money.
Thank you. Any further question? Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm satisfied with the answer. My second question is, and this is due to, I don't know how to call it, is it brain drain? Our youth and Ghanaian domestic workers who ran to the Gulf have been abused severally. We see pictures, we see photographs or videos. Want to find out, do you have any plan or what do you intend to do to stop this kind of abuses?
Well, thank you very much. As I indicated earlier, this is one of the priority areas His Excellency President Mahama has asked me to pursue, how to make sure that we use our foreign policy to create jobs, but in creating jobs, we make sure that we have bilateral agreements and ensure that these jobs are safe, properly done. So it's not just some agencies who are exploiting, vulnerable Ghanaians because they want jobs. So be rest assured, we are not only going to be verbally condemning what has happened, but we are going to take concrete steps with a new economic diplomacy outlook that seeks to create jobs for our young people in other jurisdictions. Sign proper contracts, bring all of these people within a regulated space, and make sure that our young people benefit. That is the surest way of ending all of this exploitation and the violation of the human rights of our people.
Chairman, I wish you well. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll give the floor to Honorable Vincent Asafua.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Let me use this opportunity to congratulate the nominee on his appointment as the Minister for Foreign Affairs. My question to you, Honorable nominee, is that, and I will try to give a certain background. On the 4th of September, 2021, you granted an interview on Newsfile, Joy FM. You stated that traveling on a private jet jeopardizes the president's security, and that we need a presidential travel policy to regulate how presidents of our republic travels. Now, just a few days after the President of the Republic was sworn in, specifically on the 17th of January 2025, His Excellency the President, President Mahama, used a private jet to travel to Gambia. He also used the same private jet to Senegal. Now my question to you is, will you condemn this action of the president, as you have done in previous times when presidents use private jets? And if given the nod to become the Minister for Foreign Affairs, when should we expect the presidential travel policy that you proposed to the people of Ghana?
Thank you very much. The first question is, will you condemn Then when you come to office, the travel policy.
Well, thank you very much. It is important for us to put this matter in the proper context. And let us not compare, you know, apples and, if you like, pepper. Because you just can't compare them. My campaign against the non-use of the presidential jet, which this parliament approved $37 million at the time for the purchase in 2008 under the President Kufuor regime, was largely about protecting the public purse, a cost-saving concern is what I had. That why do we have a functioning presidential jet in pristine condition, and we will be spending 20,000 euros an hour renting luxury jets? That is the matter I raised, and I have the Hansard here, the Hansard of 16 June 2021. I filed an urgent question, and Mr. Chairman, if you 012 with your permission, I'm not going to read. I'm just summarizing. I know that time is of the essence. You see here from column 012, the Minister for Defense at the time, the Honorable Netiwo, coming up with all kinds of excuses that you couldn't even shower in our presidential jet and all of that, which we found bizarre. So, put my concerns in proper context. It is about wastage, profligacy, the dissipation of scarce resources. That's the fundamental concern. Now, in the case of President Mahama, President Mahama is using his brother's private jet without paying for it. We are not being charged 20,000 euros an hour by the celebrated entrepreneur and business mogul, Ibrahim Mahama. What the presidency has explained is that in the initial days of the presidency, they asked the Ghana Air Force to present a report, conduct an assessment and present a report on whether the presidential jet was fit for purpose. The Ghana Air Force had delayed in their submission, and in the interim, his brother stepped in. We didn't pay for it. There was no financial loss to the state. I can confirm to you that since the Ghana Air Force presented its report, I remember that on the floor of this house, the former Minister for Defense told us that he can confirm that the jet is in great condition. And I found that very revealing, because when I was on this campaign in 2021, he was telling us the jet wasn't fit for purpose. But suddenly, under a different president, it's such a great jet which can be used. So we are glad that there's been a U-turn. The Honorable Netiwo has confirmed that the jet is in good use. And I can confirm that President Mahama has since resumed the use of the Falcon 900 EXE, Ghana's presidential jet. Now, on the second aspect of your question about the travel policy, this is a matter that I feel strongly about. And if given the opportunity to sit at cabinet, I will propose that Ghana formulates a presidential travel policy. If you take the United States, for example, when the president uses Air Force One for campaigns, for private use, he is made to reimburse the American taxpayer. So every campaign, they have an independent committee that monitors. If you use the presidential jet for private business, private fundraising, for campaigns, you pay back the fuel, the cost of using it, and all of that. So, and then they also have clear guidelines on who can use those jets and how it should be maintained and all of that. We don't have that. So it is important to pursue that policy. And I can assure you that I remain committed to it, and I think that it is time for Ghana to have a presidential travel policy.
Any further question? But remember, you asked two in one question. Condemnation
Actually,
and
have a follow-up.
policy.
I have a follow-up.
You have a follow-up?
Yeah, I have a follow-up.
Very well.
Honorable nominee, granted that His Excellency the former President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo engaged in wastage and profligacy, in your own words. On the 29th of March, 2021, while you were paying tribute to the former president of Tanzania, President John Magufuli, on the floor of Parliament, you praised him for placing a ban on what you term frivolous foreign travels by government officials. Frivolous foreign travels by government officials. And if my memory serves me right, you made a post on Facebook allegedly saying that President Magufuli was flying in economy, which turned out not to be true. But now, as a foreign affairs minister...
Please, for the record, I've never put out such a post. Never. I only paid tribute to Magufuli in Parliament. I didn't talk about economy travel. Just for the record, Mr. Chairman.
Nominee, that should be your answer. So allow him to finish asking the question.
Honorable nominee, I'm suggesting to you that you made a Facebook post. And in that Facebook post, you indicated that President Magufuli has been flying in economy, and for that matter, other African countries should also learn from him. Now, as a foreign affairs minister, obviously you will be engaged in a number of travels, specifically outside the country. And I am informed that foreign affairs ministers travel on either first class or business class. Now, if you were to make a round trip to New York in the United States of America with Emirates, you will be paying around 250,000 Ghana cedis on first class. Now, if you decide to do business class, you will be doing about 140,000 Ghana cedis. In your own words, His Excellency the President Nana Akufo-Addo engaged in wastage, profligacy. If you want to do economy, you'll be doing around 27,000 Ghana cedis. Would you decide to use economy class ticket, or you will do business class?
The first question is, did you make that Facebook post?
No, I did not.
He's making reference to contribution on the floor and a Facebook post. And he interjected to say that the Facebook post, no. Is that not it? So now that you have the opportunity to answer the question, did you make those Facebook posts? What was your contribution on the floor?
So my contribution on the floor was to eulogize President Magufuli, and I stand by it. I think he's one of the greatest African leaders we've had, and it's a shame that he didn't live long. I mean, just like Professor Mills, he could not complete his term. And President Magufuli did a lot of things, a lot of cost-saving measures, including even reviewing how they celebrate their national days and all of that, renegotiating, their agreements in the extractive industry and all of that. Great leader, and I admire such leaders who protect the public purse genuinely, not just by rhetoric. Having said that, I would also want to place on record that when given the nod as foreign minister, I shall never, ever rent a 20,000 euros an hour luxury jet. Never, ever. I shall never, ever do that.
Please, Honorable Asafwa, it is not the answer you want.
So you have my full assurances. Now, on the matter of business class economy. Honorable Chair, I am wondering why members of parliament who fly business class don't want a foreign minister to fly business class. I'm really wondering what this is about and where they are headed. But I can assure you, Honorable Chairman, that I don't care a hoot which class I travel. If we get into economic difficulties and there is a policy that ministers should travel economy, I am happy to travel economy, because even as MP, there are times that I travel economy when I can, and I don't see it as a big deal. Indeed, when I met the Venerable Dr. Obeda Samoa, he told me that for the first 7 years, in the heady days of the revolution, as foreign minister, he was flying economy. Didn't take anything away from him. So I really don't care. If there's a policy that let's fly economy. And don't forget that even about cost-saving measures, sometimes it depends on the airlines. As minister, I'll be interested in cost-saving measures. So if there is a travel, it is not only the class that you travel that you can save money. Even the airlines, can KLM take you there cheaper? Can Africa World or Delta or Kenya Airways or Ethiopian Airlines take you there cheaper? Give me the options and let's look at what is in the national interest. Then size of delegation. I can assure you that what we saw in the recent past, where more than 300 people can claim to be going for a COP27, President Mahama would not tolerate that. So even size of delegation, you cannot decide to fly economy. But if you pack 1,000 people, 1,000 officials, that you are flying economy, you haven't saved the country anything. So we should be more nuanced about these discussions. It's not as simplistic as is being presented.
I recognize the minority leader on a follow-up question.
No, it's okay.
Very well, he said it's okay. So, Honorable Asafwa, your second question.
I would have wished that I would have another follow-up question, but it's fine. Let me ask my second question. Honorable nominee, you should be very familiar with the struggles of members of parliament, especially since the inception of the Fourth Republic. The struggles that they go through with many aspects of their work and life, especially with transportation. You and I are not Accra boys. We all came from our various regions and came to Accra. And so obviously, when you are elected as a member of parliament and you get to Accra, there are issues of transportation for members of parliament. Now, in the 8th Parliament, in spite of these glaring difficulties that are faced by members of Parliament...
Honourable Member, your question, please.
Honourable Chairman, with the greatest of respect, just 30 seconds to lay a background. It's not offensive, respectfully. I'm doing so
you call this a 30
on behalf
seconds?
of the people of Ghana, so I beg you, respectfully. In spite of all these difficulties that colleagues go through, you vehemently oppose the grant of car loans to members of parliament. Now I have in my hand a report by the City Newsroom dated the 10th of July 2021. And that publication, the headline, that I have in my hand says that government must stop facilitating MPs' car loans. Government must stop facilitating MPs' car loans. Now, did you, as a member of parliament at the time, receive a car loan? And if yes, did you purchase a vehicle with that money?
So, Honorable Asafwa, I want to get the question clear. The City News, how is he attributed to the nominee before us? Because the author definitely is City News.
Especially Honorable nominee, Honorable Chairman, I made mention of the fact that the Honorable nominee made a statement which was captured by City News, attributed to the Honorable nominee, which is the Honorable Ablakwa. So it is a statement that is attributed to him to have said that government must stop facilitating car loans for members of parliament.
Honorable Asafwa, the difficulty that I have is that City News attributed something to Honorable Ablakwa. Now, you are assuming
I said he granted
that
an interview.
once the City News have done that, he is the author of this document. So you need to, first of all,
allow him to respond.
find out from him whether he is responsible for making that particular statement. And you proceed to ask your question.
Very much so. So my first question to you, Honorable nominee, did you make that comment in an interview that you granted to City News? And if yes, did you receive the car loan? And did you also use that money, if indeed you received it, to purchase a car?
Well, thank you very much for that question. I'm very happy that you bring this up. And I have always maintained that we need to review the car loans arrangement for members of parliament. I am not saying that members of parliament should not be entitled to cars provided for by the state. But the model, how it is done, government going for a loan for MPs, which is then deducted from their salaries. Our colleagues in the executive, our colleagues in the judiciary, there's a carpool where you have access to those cars. And then when you are done with your term or you are being moved to another place, it is left behind for the next person. So I was advocating for a different model because this model, this approach, did not sit well with a vast majority of Ghanaians. And that is a position that I still maintain. Why do we have different regimes? Those who serve in the executive, those who serve in the judiciary, they have a different regime. Nobody is going for a loan for them. There's a carpool where you can access vehicles for use. And then those in the legislature have a different arrangement. That is what I was opposed to. Now, the second leg of your question. Yes, I received the funds, but I didn't use it for a Land Cruiser. I used it to buy a combined harvester for the rice farmers in my constituency. And the records are there. So you can check that for yourself.
We have a follow-up question.
Any further question?
I have a follow-up question. You were advocating against the model of granting car loans to members of parliament, in your own words. In another breath, you say that you took the funds, you took the car loan, and used it to pay it for a combined harvester. Where is the principle contract is about $173 million. And with that $173 million that you have included in the $84 billion that is supposed to be, as it were, collected, or take that for the people of Ghana, how is that a corruption scandal, or how, in your estimation, how is that termed as corruption in your own definition?
Thank you very much. We'll take a short break for just 5 minutes whilst we remain seated.